So I've been doing real estate deals for almost 20 years. I've done flips, Airbnbs, I've done development ground up. I've also done existing repurposing into a plaza. I've done all sorts of real estate, but this project, this is brand new. I've never done anything like this, and it's a brand new idea for this area. So in today's video, I'm gonna talk to you about this project, this land, and what we're going to do with it. But I'm gonna talk to you about it in a sense where we're gonna look at multiple options, because I don't just have one exit. It's all about creative thinking when it comes to this. If you're in real estate, if you're a developer, a flipper, in rentals, whatever it is that you do in real estate, I think you're gonna really like this. Let's dive in. So when we saw this property up for sale, we had lots of ideas. Maybe we'll just renovate the existing buildings and rent them out, or create like a little storefront with one and then rent the back part out. We had all sorts of ideas, but where we landed is definitely not what we were thinking. When I first walked through this, I saw that first, and I'm like, oh, that's not too bad. But then as I got further and further into the property, I realized, wow, this is gonna be a big project. You're talking full electric, full plumbing, full drywall, insulation, the whole 9 yards. Where do you actually stop? But then we got a left hook, and that was from the historic department. Yeah, the historical preservation, because of the age, which is about the late 1800s, they got involved. And they're like, well, wait, you can't just knock this down. We have to be involved because of these beautiful hand-hewn wood beams. We got to preserve those. Well, just last week we got approval to demo the projects, but I don't want to get too far ahead. Let me show you some of the other things. There's multiple step ups and step downs. Nothing is level. I mean, the whole property is kind of like up and down. It's because the property was built onto and added onto many times. It has quite the history, but no history that would prevent it from its fate, which is to be demoed to the ground. So the upstairs wasn't up. Careful of the railing. See, the upstairs is kind of a mixed use. You could tell this is newer construction. I was thinking, hey, this would be a great master bedroom, but you start realizing that there's a lot of problems above and beyond what you're actually seeing. And those problems are things like nothing's square. This whole building is kind of just these weird hallways going almost nowhere. Well, you got a bathroom here. Then you kind of walk into this hallway that kind of goes to this bedroom, and then this bedroom and this bedroom, but you gotta step up. That's not fun. What would happen if you weren't 5'4", huh? This might not be a great place for you to live. And you are right at the deck. But the floor is the big concern. It's all over the place. Like, it literally just does this. And it's just, nothing is square in this house. So when we started really looking at it, we're like, you know what? Someone's gonna trip and fall over this. I don't feel like doing that. So we started thinking, what could you do with raw land? Well, before we get to that part, let's look at the next property, because the other house, we were like, hey, maybe we could rent this one and then we'll develop this one. So let's check that out. Whoa. Sorry, wrong way. So my wife loved this house, loved, before it caught fire, because this winter, this thing went up in a blaze. I don't know why, you know, they put one of those new smart meters on, and the next thing I know, the house is on fire. But let me show you it. Whew, someone was cooking some marshmallows here. I'm not gonna be able to see much, but the whole place is just torched. So to say the least, even though my wife loved this property, well, a fire or two, yeah, she didn't love it anymore, and she said, no, nothing we can do with this. And the town said the same thing. This was the most expensive fort building I've ever seen in my life. That doesn't even matter anymore, because this house, just like the other one, is not worthy of being fixed, period. It really bothers me when people don't flush the toilet. All right, all set. So you're probably wondering, what is it that we're gonna do with all this? Well, first, we had to get them approved to demo. So this house and that crooked thing are both going straight to the ground, along with the garages that you see. And then I had the idea of, well, what if we were to build tiny homes? That's a new thing, affordable housing, tiny homes. But I didn't like that tiny homes are literally very tiny. So we went a little above a tiny home model, but it's still a small house and it still qualifies as affordable housing. So we found out that with these houses demoed, the narrowness of the property, we could put 5 houses on this lot. So I started penciling it out for what we paid for the land, plus what we think the expense would be to demo and to build. We could sell each one of them and that would net a nice little profit. Or let's say we were selling them, but yet we were having a hard time getting what we wanted, we could always rent them. So I ran the rental. That actually looked really good. But then I started thinking, you know what? I don't really have the time to develop this. I really don't want to take on all the headaches of dealing with GCs and contractors. What if we just got this whole project approved? So a site approval, and I put a giant sign out front showing the project saying approved project. How much could I sell it for then? Well, that's where it gets interesting. Let's go into that. So the first thing we did is hired a really good architect that had relationships with the town here. And I wanted to do tiny homes first, which are like 400 to 500 square feet, which sounded great until you start trying to map out what the interior of a tiny home looks like. And I very quickly realized maybe I don't want tiny homes, but just a little bit bigger. I wanted 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath houses with 2 parking spots. So let me show you what we came up with. One of the most challenging parts about this project is how narrow this lot is. It's really deep, so we got lots of room to go back, but it's extremely narrow. So when we started laying this project out, we had to really get creative in figuring out how do we build these, but yet still have enough room to pull a car in and out of the property. And that's where creativity of the architect really came in. Let me show you. Initially, we wanted to put 8 of these houses on. With tiny homes, we were gonna get close, but we made them a little bit bigger. They're about 700 to 800 square feet, so we were only able to get 5. But if you look here closely, you can see this is that house that burned down, and then the other house is right here. So all we're gonna do is use that front part. We're gonna really make it nice landscaping. We're gonna use it as extra parking spots for guests, and then the buildings will start back further. Now the reason for that is we have a lot less of a chance of having neighbors give us a hard time because all the houses are set back and you just have really nice frontage, and that will be appealing for neighbors and people driving by. And then the houses, although they'll look really sharp, we have 5 of them and there's one next to another, and then there's an open space in between. Okay, and that's basically gonna give you access to the rear of the properties. Now, when we started talking to the town, we realized, well, there's a little bit of an issue with stormwater and where's all the excess water gonna go to? So I had to bring in an engineer. Luckily, we knew one from back in the flipping days, and he had a really solid idea that wouldn't cost a ton of money. So we've solved that problem. Now, we just have to get through the town and make sure that this isn't viewed as a major development, but with 5 properties at the square footage, we should be good to go with that. So my wife, being a designer, when she initially kind of thought of what do we want these to look like, she wanted them to have that farmish kind of look because we're down in the hollow, which that fits. So here are the renderings we came up with. Initially, we were thinking white and black, which would be this one. And you can see, you got the 2 properties. Each of them are a 2-bed, 1.5 bath with a garage and then an additional parking. But we thought this additional parking could also be living space if they don't need to park a car there. And we thought about this look, which is my least favorite. I really love this one, but that's because I'm into the darker colors, but with the wood, it really accents nicely. And then this one, just your standard dark gray, black, and white. But then we're gonna give the option to build multiple colors next to one another. So you could have a black and a white one. So it's just a really cute look that I think will give the owners or the renters a nice feel of living in a fairly modern style house. But the main objective is affordability. That's the number one thing. We don't want to build a house that's going to be priced out of the market. We wanted to build it so that literally there's a waiting list, and that's how we're going to do it. If we decide to go forward with building this project, how we'll do it is we'll actually build one house and then we'll pre-sell the rest of them. My desire is to get everything approved at the town, and then take these renderings and make a really nice marketing sign out front that when people drive by, they see it and they're like, wow, that looks nice. And it says, for sale, site approved. All the hard work in development is mostly getting it approved, going through the neighbors, going through the board, and everything that comes along with that. So we're gonna take it all the way through so that we're approved to build. We're gonna demo the houses, and we're gonna just put it up for sale. And we're gonna try to make a nice profit without ever having to put a shovel in the ground outside of demoing the existing facilities. So we're gonna do a whole series on this particular project. We're gonna walk you through all the planning board stuff and show you how that goes, talk about the problems we have, or maybe it just goes right through. Then after that, we're gonna talk about the money. And I know that's what a lot of people always wanna know, is how are you gonna fund a project like this? So up to this point, how this property was bought was private money. So we put a package together with our original vision for this, and we went out and we raised private money. Now, one of those investors we bought out, okay? So we had 2 investors who put money into the deal, and we paid them interest every single month at a rate of 12%. Now, we had some money because that one burned down, and we got some insurance money. So we used the insurance money to buy out the one investor. So now, the beauty about this project is what we paid for it minus the money we got from insurance makes this so that we're even better from a cost standpoint. So now when we go out to raise money for tranche 2, which is the second raise, we'll raise money for the demo, and we'll also raise money to get it all site approved and ready to go, which is all the plumbing and everything else. That's if we go that far. Remember, my plan is to put a big old sign out front and sell this property as a site approved project. But I'm only gonna probably try that for about 6 months. So once we get midway through next summer, we should be right about there, I'm gonna have to make a decision. Are we gonna just develop this ourselves, or are we gonna keep trying to sell it as a site that's approved? Now, when we get to that point, we'll make that determination. But that's when the next raise will happen, and that raise would definitely be a raise we would use privatemoneyclub.com for. So we'd put together the whole project, showing all the renderings, the architectural plans, the approvals, and we would put that up there using the property as collateral in a first lien position, and we would do that raise. How much would we need? I don't have those numbers yet, but once we get to that point in the series, we'll talk about that. Stick around for the next video where I'll show you exactly how we raised the money to buy the property and showed the vision for that. So if you're thinking about doing a project like this, whether it's a flip, a renovation, or a rental property, where you should start is privatemoneyclub.com. Because if you don't have the ability to raise the capital for your project, you don't have a project. So start at privatemoneyclub.com, create a free profile, and put your deal up there, or just talk about your vision and your idea on the community chat. That's the first starting place. Because again, with no money, you got no project. So start there. Well, hey, thanks for joining me for this video. If you liked it, you're gonna wanna check this video out right here. And this video is gonna talk about how to raise private money. Also, if you're interested, let me know what you wanna see out of this series. Do you wanna see us demoing the project? Do you wanna see us doing the raise? You wanna see some stuff with us going through the board? Comment below what you wanna see next, and we'll put that into the roster for the series. Hey, thanks for joining me for this episode, and we'll see you on the next one.